There are numerous mysterious events hidden in the depths of history, awaiting resolution. These events, due to their unresolved mysteries, continue to intrigue people not only during the periods they occurred, but even years later. Sometimes supernatural forces, and sometimes a series of complex events lie at the heart of these mysteries. The allure of the unknown always draws people in and compels them to seek the truth. In this video, we will delve into an event that has intrigued people for years due to its unresolved mystery. Let's explore together the mysterious case known as the Yuba County Five, which took place in 1978 and affected the lives of 5 young Americans and their families. Welcome to my channel called The Discovery of Mystery, where we will unveil the curtains of secrets. On a cold February night, 5 young men left their warm, safe car and walked into the forest at midnight. Months later, when their bodies were found, no one could understand what had happened to them. On June 4, 1978, a group of motorcyclists traveling in Southern California decided to take a break and explore the settlements behind the trees on a mountain road. As the motorcyclists left the main road and entered an area that seemed abandoned, they noticed a nauseating smell in the air. Soon, they discovered that this place was actually a Forest Service station. The station consisted of 5 trailers, one of which was the main trailer. The remote location of these trailers was not unusual, as Forest Service stations in many parts of the United States are strategically located. These stations are used for various emergencies, including search and rescue, fire detection, and more. Most of these stations have at least one staff member present. However, stations in more remote and isolated areas are only used when necessary. The service area the motorcyclists encountered was one of those stations, used when needed and without any personnel present. When the motorcyclists approached the station and took off their helmets, a sharp smell began to intensify. Some of them realized that the smell in the air was the smell of death. The motorcyclists initially thought this smell could come from a rapidly decaying animal due to the summer heat. However, when they looked closer at the trailers, they noticed something odd. The main trailer's windows were shattered, and the door was not locked. In an isolated and quiet area, this sight initially frightened them, but they gathered their courage and decided to go inside. Inside, covered with a few winter blankets and surrounded by insects, they found a lifeless body on a bed. Those present that day became witnesses to a mystery that had remained unsolved to this day. The motorcyclists immediately notified the nearest police officers. Upon arriving at the scene, the authorities had clues about the identity of the deceased person, and their worst fears were confirmed when they arrived, because that lifeless body in the caravan belonged to one of the 5 young men who had disappeared in February. So what exactly happened to these missing young men? To understand this, let's go back to the night of February 24, 1978. On a cold February night in 1978, a basketball game was about to be played at California State University. 5 friends named Jack Huett, Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, and Mathias wanted to attend the game together to support their team. These 5 young men were close friends who deeply cared for each other. They shared some common characteristics. All of them struggled with psychological and mental health issues. Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, and Ted Weiher had learning disabilities that sometimes caused them to experience depression. Jack Huett's condition was somewhat different because he had intellectual disabilities. Mathias, on the other hand, was grappling with psychological issues due to his experiences in the military. Gary also suffered from schizophrenia and was known to have a history of drug use. The ages of these 5 friends ranged from 24 to 32. They were well liked by everyone in their community. Unfortunately, these 5 friends would face a tragic end. On the day of the game, these 5 young men arrived in Chico, a city in California where the game was being held, in a 1969 Ford Montego. The weather was quite bad that day due to snowfall. After watching the game together, they set out on the road again to return home in challenging weather conditions. However, about an hour after they started their journey, they had to stop again. They hadn't eaten enough that day and wanted to buy food from a market along the way. The market they entered to buy food became the last place they were seen alive. The families of the young men reported their failure to return home to the police. Subsequently, a search operation was launched by the police for the missing youths. 4 days after the youths disappeared, a forest ranger in the Plumas National Forest reported to the police that he had seen a mysterious car parked at a mountain road junction on the Oroville-Quincy Road. Acting swiftly on this information, the police found the abandoned car of the missing youths on a forest road. With the discovery of the car, this incident turned into a major unsolved mystery to this day. There was no sign of damage or struggle inside the car. So what was the reason for the young men leaving the car in that cold weather? Did they get out of the car because they were afraid of something in that desolate place? The peculiarities didn't stop there. The location where the car was found was also quite puzzling because it was not on the route to the youths' homes. In fact, the car was facing in the opposite direction. Interestingly, that direction was a dark and desolate mountain road. Why did the young men feel the need to go in the opposite direction of their homes? Moreover, why did they abandon their vehicle in such bad weather conditions with ongoing snowfall? They even took the car keys when they left. So why didn't they come back? The incident had truly become mysterious. During this process, the police began to interview the families of the young men. Some details provided by the families further intensified the mystery. Jack Madruga's family told the police that their son always hated the cold and was afraid of the forest. According to them, Jack would never have gone to that dark mountain road under any circumstances. Another young man, Bill Sterling's father, told the police that he had gone fishing with his son near that area in the past, but his son absolutely hated that area. There was another oddity in the incident. The car had been driven on that hilly and rugged road. However, there was neither mud nor any signs of damage on the car. For someone to drive a car on such a road without damaging it, they would have to be a very skilled driver. In other words, Jack Madruga, who drove the car, must have been a very good driver. However, Jack's family told the police that Jack was not that skilled of a driver and would never willingly lend his car to anyone. As the investigation deepened, the case became even more complex and mysterious. Police summoned the individuals present at the last seen market of the youths for questioning. However, no significant information was obtained from these individuals. Subsequently, despite their efforts to continue search operations, the police could not proceed further due to severe weather conditions. Consequently, no trace of the missing youths was found in the area until June 4, 1978. On June 4th, a group of motorcyclists found the lifeless body of Ted Weiher in a deserted service station's main trailer with broken windows and an unlocked door. This situation was quite peculiar because this service station was approximately 30 kilometers away from where the abandoned car was found. How did Ted manage to reach this remote station, especially considering the heavy snowfall? Where were the other youths? Next to Ted Weiher's lifeless body, a gold watch, necklace, ring, and wallet were found on the table. However, these items did not belong to Ted or the other youths. Additionally, a shoe later identified as belonging to Gary Mathias was found in the trailer. However, apart from the shoe, there was no other trace of Gary. As previously mentioned, this was a service station used for emergency situations, thus approximately a year's worth of canned food was stored for use if needed. However, not a single can had been opened or consumed. Moreover, there were plenty of matches inside that could have been used for heating purposes, but none of them had been used. At this stage, Ted's lifeless body was sent to forensic scientists for examination. According to the forensic scientists, Ted Weiher had survived in the trailer for 13 weeks. This was quite distressing because Ted's death had been slow and painful. Police initiated an extensive search operation in the area to find the other youths. After some time, human skeletons were found 6 kilometers away from the service station. The skeletons had also been partially savaged by wild animals over time. Upon examination, it was determined that these skeletons belonged to Bill Sterling, Jack Huett, and Jack Madruga. Despite all search efforts, no trace of Gary Mathias was found, and it could not be determined whether Gary was alive at that time. Why did the young people abandon their cars on that cold night? Did something happen that frightened them? How did Ted Weiher manage to reach the service station approximately 30 kilometers away? Why didn't Ted take advantage of the facilities at the station? Why didn't the other young people come to the service station with Ted? Why did the young people separate from each other? Lastly, where is Gary Mathias? And why has no trace of him been found? This incident left many questions unanswered, and the mystery was never solved. Now let's delve into and interpret some conspiracy theories proposed after the incident together. First theory. These young people were killed by paranormal forces in that deserted area. The night of the incident, the disappearance of 5 young people and subsequent events gave rise to numerous paranormal theories. According to this theory, what these young people experienced that night could have been due to extraterrestrial beings or supernatural forces. One reason for generating these theories is the mysterious nature of the area too. Frankly, I can't say I find this theory convincing, to be honest. Humans tend to attribute paranormal meanings to events they cannot fully understand or solve. Moreover, attributing paranormal meanings always makes the event more intriguing. Therefore, although such theories were proposed after the incident, not the evidence has been found to corroborate such claims. I believe this is the theory least likely to be true. Second theory. One or more of these young people experienced a sudden psychological breakdown, which affected the others. According to this theory, one or more of these young people experienced a sudden panic attack or paranoid breakdown. Subsequently, this condition led the others into a state of panic as well. The presence of psychological disorders among these young people, especially Mathias having been diagnosed with schizophrenia in the past, strengthens this theory. If these young people experienced such a condition in an unfamiliar and dark place at night, it could have impaired their ability to think clearly and made mistake. The reason for them abandoning their safe and warm cars and the subsequent mysterious events leading to their deaths in harsh winter and forest conditions could be attributed to this. I can say that I find the claims in this theory sensible. Third theory. The young men were abducted and killed by malicious individuals. According to this theory, on that night, the young men were abducted by some malicious individuals they encountered on their way home. These individuals allegedly killed Bill Sterling, Jack Huett, and Jack Madruga in the forest. Ted Weiher managed to escape from them into the forest, where he was left to die. The fact that Ted Weiher did not use any of the facilities at the service station was seen as an indication that he had experienced significant fear. This theory was proposed due to Ted's this condition. Additionally, Mathias's past and his drug addiction in the past are cited as reasons for this theory. However, no evidence has been found to substantiate these allegations. Furthermore, no evidence has been found indicating that the young people were abducted near their cars. Therefore, while this theory remains a possible scenario, according to the findings obtained by the police, it is considered unlikely to be true. Fourth theory. The young men got lost due to bad weather conditions, cold, and exhaustion, and tragically lost their lives while panicking and searching for their way. The official investigation conducted by the police focused on this theory. The abandonment of the car and the discovery of bodies in the mountains led authorities to believe that the young men became disoriented and lost due to harsh weather conditions and cold, resulting in their deaths. However, discrepancies such as Ted Weiher's body being found separately from the others, the presence of food cans in his location that he couldn't access, and Mathias's shoes being found where Ted Weiher's body was discovered, highlight some inconsistencies in this theory. Please share your thoughts on these theories in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. You can support my channel by liking the videos and leaving comments. Until we meet again.